Hey, welcome to your Scorpio horoscopes for the week of November 26th through December 2nd, which means we move into the last month of the year this week, which is kind of exciting. It means that the year is almost done. Of course, we have to get through the holiday, which can be lots of fun for some people and really stressful for others, and maybe even a little bit of both for some, honestly. But I have high hopes for 2024, not like uber high hopes, but I do have high hopes for 2024, because this year and last year, but this year in particular was just very, very heavy, very difficult. Lots of people have had a really hard time this year. And one of the things, looking into the astrology for next year, which I already have, one of the big things is that that I have noticed is that the retrogrades, the Mercury retrogrades, are changing. Now, for 2022 and 2023, the Mercury retrogrades were in all of the Earth signs, full Earth signs, for 2 years in a row. I've been doing astrology for 10 years now, and I've never seen that. That doesn't mean that obviously it happens. I mean, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but I have yet to have seen it. This is the first time that I personally have seen it play out in this way. And the earth signs are the ones that get things done. They get things moving. Think of all your Capricorn friends who are just like, let's just get it done right now, fix it. There's a problem, let's fix it. Our Virgo friends are like that. Our Taurus friends are like that also. And so when all the Mercury retrogrades are in these influences that can fix things, obviously things are not getting fixed. And the problem is getting worse. I don't know about you guys, but just this year, gas prices have gone up, which means food prices have gone up, which means it's almost impossible to feed ourselves, let alone pay our bills. And all of those went up at the beginning of the year as well, at least here in California. So it has been very difficult financially. And if you have been struggling financially, that's just probably been a lot more difficult than it has been in past years, where you've been able to kind of skirt by, and now it's almost impossible. Still, I have to say that over here we have been working our little tails off, and we're getting by hook or by crook. Somehow we are getting by. So that is really good. So I do have hope for 2024. But we still have a few more weeks before that happens. And this week, you guys get to just sit back and relax. Take a nice deep breath, let it out slowly, relax, because the sun and Mars have officially moved out. They're not even on the cusp anymore. We're not getting those influences anymore. It was fun, but there was a lot of challenges with having planets in Scorpio. You guys are about to have Venus come into Scorpio. That is going to happen probably next week, by the end of next week or so. And Venus is already going to be coming in with a challenge right off the bat, because why not? So this week really is all about relax for you. Let go of what happened in the last few weeks and prepare yourself for what is going to happen. Although it won't be quite as challenging as it was, because we're only dealing with one planet and not a whole bunch of planets coming through. So that does help things a lot. It'd be quite so crazy. Focus is on long-term goals for you guys this week, although we do have Pallas Athene continuing to be in your sign. And Pallas Athene's focus is on finances. Now, Pallas Athene is a it is a planet. It's a very small planet, more like a dwarf planet. It has an influence. It's not as heavy as the bigger planets, but it does have an influence nonetheless, especially when it stands on its own. Pallas Athene is known as the warrior goddess. It is a feminine influence, and it's I always think of Boudica or Boudicca. I've heard so many different interpretations of her name. But I always think of her when I think of Pallas Athene, because this woman was an actual woman that lived at one time, a long, long, long time ago in England. And when her husband died, and the Romans decided to take over her duchy in England, she fought them. And she fought them for years. She was even one of the first people that put knives on her chariot so that she could cut through armies as she was going through. The woman was ruthless and brutal. And yes, eventually they caught her, and it did not work out well for her, but she went down fighting nonetheless. And it's this kind of influence that needs to go into your financial long-term goals at this time. Of course, in the economy that we're in, we have to fight for every little thing that we have. And while we feel that we shouldn't have to do that is neither here nor there. Whether we should or shouldn't have to do that is irrelevant. We're doing it. That's where we're at. And I see far too many people not motivating themselves to find a way to get through this. Instead, they're sitting around going, well, it's the government's fault. Well, it's this person's fault. Well, it's that person's fault. Everybody blames the president. Everybody blames the Senate, and, all this stuff. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's happening to you, and complaining about it is not changing the situation. The only thing that you can do to combat this situation is to change the way you're playing the game, is to fight a little bit harder. And in some cases, you just need to screw those knives on your wheels and get through it, because that's just what we have to do sometimes. So I feel like in terms of your long-term financial goals this year, it's really important to make sure that you put yourself in a mindset and a situation that is not, one, hoping that things will just go back to the way they were, because it never does. Okay. It can improve, but we're not going back to pre-pandemic days. Okay. That's not going to happen. That whole thing screwed things up so badly. It's going to take forever for us to recover from that. So you don't want to make the mistake of just hoping that somebody will come in and change this, because the result of that is going to be, you're going to be in a worse off situation than you are now. Instead, Pallas Athene's influence is, you got to fight for what you want, and you got to fight for what you have, and you have to come up with different means of doing what you've always done. So in terms of financial goals, for example, the old way doesn't always work. You have to come up with alternatives that may work better. Me personally, I am a huge fan when it comes to finances. I'm a huge fan of two things: multiple income streams, number one. Anyone that has multiple income streams has a better chance. What happens if you only have one and you lose that? You lose it. You don't have anything. So side hustles are really important these days. I can't stress it enough. My whole life is one side hustle after another, basically. Side hustles are really important in the world at this time. Whatever you can do to put away money, the better. The other thing is that rather than waiting for somebody to do something, it's time to actually look at what you can do and get that process started now. Don't wait until January. Get the ball rolling now. Because the truth of the matter is that the holiday is coming up. This is when we tend to stress over money the most. And this is also where we tend to overspend the most. If you're focused on making some of that up now, it'll be a lot easier moving into January, because you won't feel like you're moving into the new year completely and totally tapped out. And that is a miserable feeling. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do consider sending a tip or donation through my coffee link, which is there in the description. You know, I love my coffee and I really appreciate the tips and the donations. I mean, I'm just so blessed to have you guys. And I appreciate every tip and donation that I get. It really does help me to continue to do what I'm doing. And yes, I do want the horoscopes to continue to be a free service, but I enjoy the support nonetheless. I really appreciate it. I'm Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic, and I will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, you guys be the warrior. It's up to you. You guys know what you need to do. All you need to do is step up to the plate and get her done. I'll see you guys next week. You guys make it a great week, like you always do.